cool. Did I grab a clogged pipe? That would be terrible. There we go. All right. While I go and make my punny. Punny, again, is a nice small little dab of glass. Doesn't have to be much. Got visitors coming in. Okay, keeping that on center, heating my punty. And just screwing that up evenly, letting it cool on center. Just a couple dots of water. And a tap. Here's another chance for me to make sure that my lines go as vertical as they can. As I draw, I'll make sure I'm not twisting at the same time. See how my foot
Extra
is
ring
just
of
heat underneath the foot in the punty. So that gives me a very easy ability. Now the rest of the piece is centered. I can go underneath the foot here and just hold steady through a full rotation, and that wobble works its way right out of there. I can continue to just hold steady while lifting up underneath the punty, cooling it in place, and then make sure I go up here and cool that in place. And then the whole rest of the piece kind of doesn't matter because the top and the bottom are right on. You won't even notice any kind of a slight shimmy when that top and bottom are on. Okay, it's been balanced out in heat quite a few times. I'm gonna go ahead and put it away. One last flash. Not too much because we don't want it to slump. But now we've flashed it enough, it's a good idea to give it time to cool as we lightly touch the water. It breaks off like a whisper. Preheating the Kevlar so they don't touch the glass while they're too chilly. They get a little flash against the inside. While I soak the heat into the the punny mark, smoothing that, we're ready to go. So my first layer is a gather of clear. I'm going to roll up a whole lot of glow-in-the-dark green powder and create a nice thick layer of it. Building up nice thick layers is going to help me break up the color when I hit the optic mold with it, which will give it a nice kind of a scallop pattern on the inside when you actually see this lamp turned off. But we just got to build up enough thickness so that the color will show up as it stretches out and blows out. It still has to hold its saturation. Alright, last layer of color for the interior. I'm going to blow a bubble into this and stuff it down into an optic mold and create a nice series of straight vertical lines in the bubble. First, I'll just roll it on the table back and forth, cooling it down. Now when I blow, I pressurize the pipe and hold that pressure in there with my thumb, and you see the bubble starts to fill out the interior. I have a nice evenly blown out bubble now. I can shape. In order to shape it, I'm going to roll it on the table to get it back into the shape of where I need it for the mold, which is the next part of the process. Over here I have an aluminum mold on the floor that if I heat this bubble properly and drop it down into the mold and inflate, it'll take the shape, but that mold is not for the final version of this piece. It's really just for breaking up the surface. And as I go in the mold, you'll see there's nothing terribly crazy about it. You just stuff it in and fill it out and blow hard. And it takes the shape, you see? It kind of breaks up the surface, and if the glass was clear, it would be giving it a very optic effect. In this case, it just breaks up the color layer. So watch, when I sit down, I can show you more carefully. You see the surface it created on there. I'm just going to tweak out the bottom a little bit because I want to use that for later, right about there. I'm going to quench that in the water, freezing the tip of the glass. That's going to give me a nice chilly knob to hold on to while I twist the body of this piece. So watch as I do this. I'll go back to the zoom in shot in just a second, get you up close. Now that it's warm, I can hold the chillier part that's been quenched in the water, and I get the top of the bubble to spin very carefully and evenly. See? Get rid of that part, and then this is the good stuff. Everything I'm touching with the metal right now is going to be kept. Push that back in a little bit because it's stretched out to be very long. Now, I can smooth this out. I still have a bubble that I can blow out. But if I inflate it, it only wants to inflate there. I'm going to heat it and smooth it down to get it ready for the next gather of clear. It really is truly mesmerizing when you get the right point to see the sweet spot of the twist and all that. Yeah, you can really get drawn into that. Excuse me. Now, by just staying in the heat here, I'm not only smoothing out the texture on the surface, but I'm also building an even heat throughout the whole wall thickness of the bubble, which is good because I need to reblow this out and make sure that it's still going to work out for blowing a nice low bowl out of later. So I'm going to keep it up in the air and let it squish it back a bit. I'm going to marver that fat spot that just bulged out. Bringing that back in is a way to cool it. I'll cool the tip a little bit and just make contact with the whole surface so that I'm ready for the next time I blow it out. I know that it's going to want to blow out as evenly as it possibly can right now. When I say evenly, I mean I'm seeing that the gather is going out very round all around it. There's no one part that's blowing out more than another. And just for posterity, I'm going to marver this down one more time and smooth out the texture and go in for my next gather. You may remember through most other pieces that I make that everything is built up in layers of clear glass and then more color and then another layer of clear and more color. There's reasons for that. In this case, it's because I want my outside red color to be on the surface of the piece. I want it to look like it's a mushroom that's got paint on the surface somehow, like a brush stroke effect. So I like the smooth, kind of washed out colors. As long as they're saturated, they can be kind of non-directional. That's okay with me. There's a little zoom in of what I have. It doesn't look like much. It actually just looks like it's evenly applied with the pale white, but it is the glow-in-the-dark color. I wish I had a black light, little flashlight to show you, because it will actually show you the glow under a black light, but really what it's designed for is soaking up the daylight, turning off the light, and seeing it really start to glow on its own. It's also the most chosen color out of all the jellyfish that I make. People love glow in the dark, whether it's aqua or green, they sell equally, but that's the one that people really enjoy. If you'd like to see a video of me doing that, I have one. I believe it's on my YouTube page. Maybe it's still in Instagram. So right now, you might be wondering what we're doing. We're just waiting for it to cool. There's a lot of color in the moil of the glass here. I'm waiting to leave. I don't need any kind of a red glow in the piece right now. In fact, I want it to be just south of being able to glow. And we're almost there. When I'm just a little bit shy of it having a glow, then I know that it's going to have a nice ability to manage the heat and the weight of the new glass that I'm putting on here. And I need to do a lot with that new glass. I need to strip it a lot off to give me a nice thin layer, and I need to keep the integrity of this bubble through that process. So let's go do that now. It's not that the colors are going to run together, it's actually that they react with each other. Like, colors are made of different metals added to the raw material before it was melted to be glass. So there's different formulas of glass out there, all made of different percentages of different metals that really need to melt at a certain temperature and cool at a certain temperature together. So all that said, if you're taking metals, for instance, the cadmium that it would take to make some glass yellow, if you take that and you add a layer of color on it that has lead, it instantly reacts in a way that it doesn't look good anymore. It's not yellow on top of white like you would want. Lead colors are typically white. What you get is a gray overlapping remaking of the colors, and it's a reaction of the different metals heating up together and basically making a different color together as they heat and cool together. So all that said, it's a good idea to try to separate your colors specifically, or if you have a reason to put them together, to do it in a way where they're not going to be overlapping. For instance, transparent on transparents. You're not usually going to get a nice looking green if you overlap yellow on top of blue transparents. It doesn't look green, it just looks like a different version of the blue, which is not more yellow, for instance. I'm covering all the glow in the dark on this layer now with white. I'm going to cover it up until I think I have an even application of white. Oops, excuse me guys, I thought I had you with me there. I'm going to start building up my layer of white, and then we're going to get to the red, and then we're going to get to the cane, and then we're going to get to blowing it out. So. Get it nice and warm and roll out my color. Try to be as even with it as I can. Last thing I want is a blotchy effect to something like my diffusing color. It wouldn't really help me. It would behoove me to be as clean with my color application at this point. Same as the red. Filling in as a lot of this white is going to help give a nice background to both the glow in the dark and the red on the other side. So it doesn't bother me that it's taken a while to fill this space in. Except I think I am almost done. I might do one more roll. There we go. Now that's enough white. I'm going to marver this, or excuse me, sit down at the bench and block it and paper it and shape it for my next strip gather, where I'll put the red on that. The red on that gets the cane directly on it, and that will be the outside of the surface for the piece. I'm not going to gather more clear on the outside of everything. So for now, we even out what we have with a very gentle touch and a very wet newspaper. Starting from the tip and working my way back. Well, there goes a little bit of the dry newspaper stuck onto the piece. But it is carbon, and it's going to continually burn and brush off of there. I'm not happy about it, but it's not also the biggest problem. I just slightly wish that I had matted down the paper a little more and packed it down to not have to have such loose bits on it. It's okay though. There we go, cooling it. The vast majority of all this carbon is just going to burn right off of there and then be covered by the red eventually anyways. So let's take it back to the heat, get it ready for the next gather by by papering it, marvering it, and cooling it. We're going to separate by gathering a layer of clear and start picking up a whole lot of red on it. Might even be using all the red that I have on the table over here. Going in for my last gather of color. After this clear, ooh, see that, guys? That was hot glass that I just poured on top of the cold glass in the bucket there. And it stressed it out so much it exploded. You ever have those times you're glad you're wearing safety glasses in the studio? Okay. Getting a nice thick layer of red on here. And I'm going to build it up with even more red, a brighter red. This is more of a dark crimson that I'm using right now. I'm going to use a brighter, what's called coral red. Which, by the way, is also very good for making the inside of seashells. It just happens to be the right red. Who would have thought? Now I'm running out of space and color. So I'm going to keep working on to the next color next. I've got enough of the crimson on there, I think. We'll see how much that mattered later on when it actually cools down. So now it's time to start getting it prepped up for the cane roll up out of the pickup oven. When I say get it ready for it, what I mean is cool it in place. I'm going to smooth out the texture on the surface here. I'm going to decide whether it's too large for the roll up. I need to measure it a couple times. First, I'm going to get some cooled skin on the outside. The newspaper here, just smooth rolling back and forth. Let it hang a bit. I'm going to need to measure it up to my pie divider that's over on the table there. But I think I know that I'm going to need to marver it down just a bit first. There's no way this is going to just happen to be the right size. Here's my measurement. I'm a little big right now. Need to fit that. And marvering the side is not always the answer. I think removing a little bit of the bottom is going to be a big help. So you're removing some material that doesn't need to be here right now. So when I get to the bench, sit down with it and we'll start papering it nice and evenly. Remove a little bit here. And get it ready for the roll up. Okay, now ready. I'm going to go ahead out of the oven and pick it right all up. I got a nice heat on the surface. Now with these canes, I don't want to blend them down too tight or too smooth. What I want is to seal off the end, get them nice and clean, lay them down carefully, and then I just want to start blowing out the piece because I want them to have a surface to them and a texture to each individual cane. So this process is going to end up going pretty quick. First, when I say pretty quick, what I mean is because I need to get it blown out early in the process, I can't continue to heat, stretch, marver, and all that. So, watch this, I'm all ready. There we go. Because of the demand of the process, I have to get this blown out early and then work with it from there so that it doesn't have a chance to overheat and soften those canes on the outside. So you'll see a lot of back and forth, a lot of real quick. I hope I can keep up with all the comments here. Okay, that was pretty quick to blow it out, but now I've got a nice filled out form of the texture on the surface like I wanted, so I'm going to leave it as is. Actually, it worked great, I think. So I'm going to let it cool for a bit as I get my punty started, which is going to get stuck on the bottom here. I know this is a little bit off, but that's okay. It's going to be browned and finished anyways. This needs to stay centered while I work on putting the punty on that. So keep this centered as I go. Then I'll flash. clamp this guy right down here on the bottom. Center it, fuse it on as I go. Okay. Water here on the jack line. Freezing this one spot, set it on the rail and bonk it. There it goes. Now I've got control of it from this end, and I can start heating and working the heat until it opens up. I'm going to stay in here for a minute and get just a little extra temperature to help the fuse onto the bottom of the piece. You get that just by staying in there. Looks like it survived pretty well. Coloring's looking pretty good so far. It looks like the red showed up. I think I see two different versions of the red, and I certainly see the way the canes are sitting on the surface, so that's a good achievement there. Now the trick is going to be to open this up evenly, at least open it up enough that it can be construed as a mushroom cap, because the rest is all grinding and polishing, so there's going to be a lot of custom fitting. But if I just cool this back here, see that the heat is kind of working its way into the canes first and heating them more. And that's okay. We're going to go with it. That's hot. See, I just trimmed the lip nice and clean. It's a pair of shears. And now it's just about opening and finalizing the shape. It's really the most important part now. Appreciate everybody hanging in there with me for this piece. It's been a little bit of a journey today to get this piece in. Sometimes it doesn't go well on the first try, but there's no reason to give up. Sometimes it's just time to have a quesadilla and come back to work. In my case, that's exactly what time it was. Okay, see, we're starting to get a nice little mushroom cap kind of feel to it. Really, it needs to get wider though. I kind of like this shape. I think it's going to go very nicely. I even like the dip up here that I would never normally like. I like it. It's got a wide enough top to fit well. It's going to be great. We're going to flash well. Go ahead and put it away. Go all the way in for a long flash. Take an extra good care of it. Open. I'm going to sit back down with it. Fine tune it before I put it away. I want to know that this looks the way I still want. Spin fast, make it wide, tuck it in. Yeah, I like this. I think it's nice. All right, so time to put it away. One last flash for posterity here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Take it over and use the knockoff area. Take some water, drip it down in there, right on the attachment. Not on the piece, hopefully, but in the attachment. Let it funnel down inside there and stress out that attachment so that I can use my very expensive tool called a whacker and whack it right off of there. There's no need to fire polish. I'm just going to be grinding and polishing on that little scar at the end anyways, sandblasting and all kinds of stuff. But yeah, this is going to be nice. Okay, and it's not very heavy. Lots of color saturation and a nice light weight. So I'll take that out tomorrow and show you guys what it looks like. I will be here tomorrow. Thank you for sticking around. That's been fun. This has been a nice piece that took a long time to get in. So please stick around. And